Hello and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. This podcast is dedicated to bringing you the world's expert teachers on how to build a mind, body, and spirit connection, both with yourself and with your true love. I'm Valerie Green from CoachValerieGreen.com. And today I'm really excited to interview relationship coach, marriage expert, and author Gabriela 𝐆𝐚𝐻𝐫𝐤. Hi, Gabriela.
Hi, Valerie. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here with you because we were just geeking out about what it takes to make a marriage work in all areas, like, having a spiritual connection or having a shared purpose or, like really being able to balance masculine, feminine energies. There's so many components that go into having a thriving marriage. And that's what Gabrielle is an expert in. So I'm so excited to pick her brain. I will tell you a little bit about her and about what this interview is about, and then we'll just dive in. So basically, Gabriela believes that marriage isn't built on luck, which, I know that everyone who's listening to my podcast believes that it does take intentional actions, daily choices, and a constant investment. But nobody really teaches us how to do that. Our culture doesn't teach us how to do that. Our parents probably didn't teach us how to do that. Even if they stayed together, most marriages aren't really a power couple, which is what she talks about. So Gabriela is also a podcast host of the podcast Life Engineering, as well as an author, and she works one-on-one with couples to help them become a power couple. And so in this interview, we're really going, she's got an inspiring story. She started out as an engineer and then she transitioned to be a relationship coach. So she really merges those two purposes on how to engineer a marriage to really make it thrive, how to build this unshakable connection that deepens with passion and this emotional attunement and this beautiful soul connection every single day. And so without further ado, I just want to ask Gabriela, first of all, I know we're going to get into what does that look like when a marriage is thriving, but first I just want to ask, why do so many couples end up feeling disconnected? Like, what's missing?
Wow. Powerful question right from the beginning. I love it. You know what? I would probably answer you something else last week, but I've been reflecting more on that because of recent sessions. And I truly believe that it all starts with the wrong consciousness. I think that deep inside, couples don't believe that it's possible or doable to create the most fulfilling relationship, a relationship that will grow stronger and richer and stronger and richer with time. And you would say, well, couples marry out of love. Of course, they believe they marry with that intention of staying together, right? And building that beautiful life together. But here's the thing. When we fall in love, we don't need that belief.
Right.
The itself, right? The honeymoon phase takes over.
Yep.
So whether we believe it or not, we're there, right? We consciously believe it because we're feeling it.
Right.
But I think that deep belief, if it's possible to break the statistics, to become that couple, that is more tested when we pass the honeymoon phase and we are in that power struggle phase, that when now we start doing the work together. I think this is when most couples just lose that faith in the relationship. And I think that happens for different reasons. One is because maybe we didn't have the best example at home. And it could be also because we failed in a previous marriage, right? And after all, it's one of the most difficult things to do if you think about it. It's much easier to succeed career-wise than to create that rich relationship, that power couple relationship. So I think that's why so many people give up and focus on their careers, right? Rather than actually giving this the attention and the commitment that it requires.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I mean, that is a very deep answer, and I actually do agree with it. Um, because we create our beliefs based on our experiences.
That's
And
right.
if our experiences throughout our life show us that most people around us have mediocre relationships, then unconsciously we're not going to believe that we can create anything else. We don't have the modeling. And so then when we feel the honeymoon phase is like, I feel love, so therefore I believe in it. Then when we don't feel it anymore, we don't have the underlying belief structures set up from our other life experiences to teach us how to be love, how to raise our consciousness, how to act loving towards ourselves and towards other people. We have more training to be productive. So it's easier to build a career because that's what we learn how to do in school. Nobody teaches us the soft skills that you're going to go over in this interview in school.
Absolutely. And, we also have this common belief that love alone is enough, and that great marriages either happen effortlessly or they just fade over time. And again, I think it's convenient for us. There's a hidden benefit in keeping that belief because, again, it protects me from investing in something that I might not believe it's even possible, as I said before.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like a lot of times there's real truth if we're willing to look deep enough, that if we don't believe it for whatever reason, it's not familiar, we don't believe we have the skills, we haven't experienced it before, it's safer to not take a risk.
That's right. Exactly. That's right. It's safer. So we focus on other aspects like parenthood, right? Or career.
And
But in fact, what I'm saying is not, what I'm saying is that we can have it all. We deserve to have it all. We deserve to have fulfilling relationships and fulfilling careers and integrate them so one fits each other.
Exactly.
So our relationship becomes a source of strength and doesn't compete with our career, actually make us stronger and enhances what I have to offer in other aspects of my life.
Yes. Thank you for saying that, because I think that's probably what people want to hear you talk about, is inspire us with the vision of you've really taken your left-brained ability to organize and structure concepts from your engineering career to engineer a successful marriage. So I feel like that's a really great marriage of the masculine feminine, and of, the do's and don'ts for what are these soft skills? What are the elements that go into making or breaking a marriage? So let's first talk about, what does that look like in real life to engineer a successful marriage?
It's, first of all, it starts with mindset and consciousness, as always. The mindset is that this marriage is not going to become thrive. It's not going to thrive and become fulfilling on its own. It's not a passive process. We actually need to invest in it. So we have to be committed and be prepared to invest, even when it gets harder. Everybody's ready to invest when things are beautiful. But unconditional giving doesn't happen in the beginning of the relationship when I'm feeling all this love. And when you're making me feel great and you're not triggering me and you want to learn more about me and you want to spend time with me and you think about me all the time and find ways to make me feel loved and cherished. Unconditional giving happens in the second phase when I don't feel all of that, when you trigger me and I still choose to show up and give and do the work, even when it gets difficult, even on the days that I don't feel like it. So we want to start with that mindset. Mm-hmm. And then with that mindset, we can then go into what are the steps we need to take to nurture this relationship, even on the days that we don't feel like it.
Yes, exactly.
So the framework that I work with, that is described in my book, Becoming a Power Couple, are 4 pillars to engineer a legendary marriage. So we can go through the 4 pillars if you like.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so the first pillar is the me. So I'll name them first. The second pillar is the you. Then we have the our, and then we have the us.
I like that.
So the rest, how to communicate, be generous, be respectful, all of that is really important. But these are tactics. The problem is that we're many times giving a lot of tactics, but we don't have the framework where every tactic belongs to. And what the framework allows people to do is to have these structure that they know why this, let's say, date night is important, why this tactic is important, why this action is important. So under this framework, we can then get into what are the things we need to do. So the me pillar is all about self-reliance, working on yourself, taking care of your own consciousness. If your partner is triggering you, this is wonderful. This is the only way we can actually grow. Part of the commitment when we get married that is unspoken is you're going to mirror to me what I need to work on. Yep. Because when I'm alone, I cannot see what I need to work on. I can see some of it, but not everything. And I was having a session with a client. And this is when I was having a session alone with her. And last week I had a session alone with her partner. And I was talking about the importance of unity. And I said to her, listen, if you want to do what you want when you want, obviously you can do that. You can be in that child mindset. But it's going to limit your growth and evolution. Because this is pretty much to say, I want to be a great driver, but I want to drive in a town where there are no other cars or pedestrians. You're not going to become the best driver you can be. It's going to be easy. And you're going to even think you are a great driver. But in fact, the only way you can become the best driver is when you're driving in a town where there's traffic, pedestrians, and things going on. Now you are actually sharpening your driving skills. So with personal development is the same. There's so much I can work on myself when I'm alone. If nobody triggers me, how would I know I have something to resolve? Who's going to show me my negativity, right? So if part of the reason we come to this world is to do our soul correction, then the unspoken promise with my partner is you're going to show me what I need to clear. And I'm going to show you. So the me pillar is that pillar when we agree that every time we get triggered, rather than blaming our partners, we take responsibility or our parents. Yes, that too.
It's like Freudian slip for a reason. I don't believe blaming anybody helps, but that doesn't mean that we don't have to identify the emotional needs that didn't get met in childhood so that we can heal those. But it's not the blame. So anyway,
but here's the thing: even if we haven't done it, that's okay. Our partner is going to show us.
Yes, exactly.
My partner is going to show me what I need to work on, because this baggage that I need to work on, I bring it with me to the marriage, right? So just think about it. When you agree to marry this person or commit to this person, you agree to everything they are. And maybe you didn't see the baggage they have in their backpack, but it's there. Yep. And part of your commitment to the relationship is that you're going to help them clear it, not by taking their backpack, not by being the one to be blamed for their backpack, but actually poking them and triggering them so they can resolve it. So the me pillar means I don't blame you. I understand you're going to trigger me, and I'm going to use that as an opportunity to clear my own negativity.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, I cannot outsource, as it says in the book, you cannot outsource your happiness to your partner.
Yep.
If I need to I did a career change. I wasn't happy. Was that my partner's fault? No, I need to discover what my purpose is. And yes, communicate with my partner and get him on board on supporting me. But it is my responsibility to find my answers, to communicate what I need, and to ask for the support.
Yep. Yeah, that's really powerful. I love what you're saying, because it ties into, I think a lot of people are going to ask the question, well, then, okay, if my partner triggers me, that's great that I get to focus on healing, but what's their responsibility in that? Don't they have to meet my needs too? And the way I answer that is that interdependence is about collaboration. I have to take responsibility to ask for what I need and not be demanding about it, bring it up and make sure that we can create an agreement where he can meet my need in a way that works for him. That's interdependence instead of dependence. But, I'm curious what your take is on that.
I totally agree with what you're saying. And that ties to the second pillar, which is the you. And part of the you means that I take the time to get to know you so I can be a true partner, a true friend to you. Mm-hmm. So if I know what my spouse's triggers are, right, mm-hmm. then I will do my best to not step on their wounds.
Right.
Or I will do my best to never say you're like your father or you're like your mother, right? But sometimes I might. So when you say, well, what's the role of my partner? The role of your partner is to do their best. They are not responsible for you not to get triggered, but they definitely, if they are aware of what triggers you, if you communicate, if you're friends, if you talk, if you know each other, then your partner will probably do the best not to trigger you.
Right. And also to respond and repair if they do, So, right. Exactly. Yeah. That's what makes it a collaboration.
That's right. Then the second pillar is the you. And you is all about me seeing my partner. So if the first one is about me, this one is about my partner. Mm-hmm. Do I see you? Am I your best friend? Do I know you? I cannot love you if I don't know you. Am I curious to always keep learning about you? In fact, we never stop learning about our partners because I have my parents in mind. Because my partner is always changing. I'm always changing. So, in fact, it was maybe about 2 weeks ago, I was having a conversation with my husband and he shared something with me that I would never, ever see that coming. I would never think he would say that. And it makes us realize we change. Our views change, our preferences change, our values change. Maybe not the core values, but what we want from life. And we can always learn more about our partner. We usually get married after the age of 20. So there are 20 years of discovery that you can ask about your partner. How was your life like? What was the relationship with your mother, with your father, your favorite? I mean, in the book, there are different prompts. So it's about wanting to know more about them and getting curious. That prevents boredom, by the way. Mm-hmm. The U pillar is also about generosity. I always like to say generosity as a default, as a mode of operandi. Whenever I can say yes and be a giver, if it's possible, I will. Mm-hmm. So coming always from a place of giving, even if we're saying no, you can say no and come from a place of giving because it depends how you say it, right?
Exactly.
And
you say it with an attitude of, I care about what you need. And that doesn't work for me, but I'm on your team. And,
that's right. If you come with kindness, that's right. And not reactiveness, then you're definitely, And respect, right? But respect, of course, at the most basic level, but also respect of who they are, what they like. Most likely they're very different than you. So respect of their design, their ways of thinking, the ways of approaching a project. If you want to talk to them, respect of their space. When I want to talk to my husband, if he's in the middle of something, I don't just come and say, hey, no, is this a good moment? I would like to talk. And he could be watching a show that I couldn't care less. But if he's doing that, I should respect that. Mm-hmm. Right? And not just say, oh, that's a stupid show. No, it's not, because for him, it's not. So be very careful about, respecting their ways, their mind, their space, their times. That's what respect is all about. Mm-hmm. Not just with our words, but also space, time. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the U pillar.
And like you said, respecting their triggers, getting to know them, really understanding what makes them tick and respecting that.
Being very careful with words. I mean, words can create a lot of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So if whatever you're going to say doesn't add any value or doesn't come from a place of giving, but comes from a place of more taking, then probably you shouldn't say it.
Yeah, until you've gone back to the U pillar and processed it so that you're saying it in a way that's acknowledging both my feelings and needs and their feelings and needs.
That's right.
Because there's always in my opinion, there's always a way to say our truth in a way that also respects the other person's reality. But that's why right. I think like the me and the you pillar have to be balanced. It can't be all about me, but it can't be all about you.
Absolutely. And when they are balanced, they allow for the other two pillars that are about the union. Exactly. When these two are about the individual, the last two pillars are about the union.
I love that.
So the our pillar is that partnership in the most traditional way. Partnership meaning that we look at this relationship as two business partners. We want to make sure we have a common goal and a common vision. So we know where we're going and we're making decisions that are aligned with that vision and not, well, I see my retirement like this. You see it that way. You're spending money. Why are you spending money? This is for our retirement. Well, if we don't have a common goal, then I'm going to look for instant gratification. Mm-hmm. No, I'm going to spend the money now because we don't have a common vision, a common goal.
Yep. So how I know that one well.
So that's actually very important. And I see a lot of couples where the man is more careful with money and he's planning, he's looking at the future and retirement, and he complains that she's spending without even considering. I'm like, okay, have you created that common vision of the next 5 years, 10 years together? And how does it look like? And what do you need? Because she might not be aware at all. So in her mind, she's making decisions based on the now, not based on where she wants to be, because there's nowhere we want to be.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm sure you have, as I have seen it with the opposite gender too. That's very common when couples fight about money, that one person is a saver and the other person's a spender, but the saver hasn't shared the vision with the spender. The spender also hasn't shared their vision with the saver of what it provides for them to have some discretionary income or whatever. And you can create that win-win of the long-term and short-term vision together if you talk about it.
You're talking the language of the money couple.
yes.
Yes.
The David Bach.
Yes.
Yes. I actually, we read his book too. I highly recommend that book.
Yes, very, very much so. So getting in the same boat, really. And so you can coordinate and row together. So it's how do you manage what's our assets, our time, our children, and the day-to-day life. It's based on utilizing the 3 C's, which is communication, coordination, and collaboration. And that prevents a lot of frustration because, frustration happens when you feel you're not in the same wavelength. But if we don't have communication, coordination, we cannot collaborate. Right? So we expect to get on the same wavelength without doing what is required to be in the same wavelength. We expect for us to be aligned and for him or for her to understand and realize that I'm stressed. I have to get home, pick up the kids, and now he wants to do that. So we expect a lot of things. And then we go, I thought you were picking the kids and I thought you were preparing supper. We expect a lot of things. So it's really important when it comes to the hour to put in place the right systems. You wouldn't run a process or a business without the right systems.
Right.
And the right systems to run the business are all about the 3 C's. So to have those weekly meetings where you prepare for the week and you coordinate, to have those monthly meetings and daily check-ins. And sometimes I call it on demand. When I work as an engineer, we used to have a daily pass down, right? Where the engineer coming into the shift was asking everything that happened. So there was that communication, coordination, and collaboration. So I think we need that, because in today's world that is so busy, it's very easy to disconnect. We are connected in many different ways, but we can easily disconnect internally.
Mm-hmm.
So all these habits, all these rituals of communication are necessary for us to run in the same frequency and make sure that things don't get, don't fall in between. And then we build a lot of frustration. You don't see me, you don't hear me, you don't support me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to come from the assumption. I always tell couples, come from the assumption that your partner wants to support you. In fact, your partner wants to make you happy more than anything. But we need the right systems in place. So if we get lazy with those systems, then the relationship will build frustration, and then the bond of trust and connection starts to get eroded, right? Because frustration, it's like an undercurrent that starts eroding that bond of trust, that bond and that connection that we have.
Yeah, no, exactly. I love what you're saying, because I think a lot of couples have resistance to looking at their relationship as a, I'm not going to say your relationship is a business, but to looking at it with the mindset that you need to make a business successful, because you are building a life together and the life has logistical components. And
you're building a life together, and you're looking at having a long-term. It's
right.
Life. It's long.
Yes, no, exactly. And the logistics have to work. And I think a lot of people, especially people with avoidant attachment, I see this more commonly when I coach couples. It's usually the avoidant that says, well, we're both independent people. And so we could just make our lives work on our own. And we just come together when it feels good. And then you have all these misunderstandings logistically because you don't coordinate. And I think it's up to everyone to make it work for them. Like my husband and I, for example, we take all of our logistical conversations and we put it in an agenda for what we call a secretary meeting, which is a fun little, who we haven't decided who's the secretary.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But we do actually bring ChatGPT into it sometimes. But we put all the logistical decisions that need to get made and the planning that needs to happen in that meeting, because then it doesn't bleed into the rest of the romantic connection, so that we actually can experience the union that I'm sure you're going to talk about next. And so it's like in service of it feeling more harmonious and less heady the rest of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. We call it business meeting or company retreat. And we can go, I remember, because we have also what's called on-demand communication. On-demand communication is just, okay, we have the weekly stuff, but you might say, okay, I have 2 weeks coming up that are going to be extremely busy. And I remember this summer we had the book launch, and I was speaking at an inspirational competition, and there was so much going on. So I said to my husband, we need an on-demand meeting, on-demand communication, because I'm getting extremely overwhelmed. So I need your support, but if we don't talk, you won't be able to support me. We need to get on the same page of and make sure things are taken care. So we ended up going out for dinner and decided that was going to be a business meeting. So I took a notebook, and when we got to the restaurant, the host says to us, look, the kitchen is full. Come back in an hour. And I say, but I see, I tell him, but I see, available tables. He says, no, the problem is not space. It's just that the kitchen can keep up. We are short in stuff. And I said, you know what? This is actually perfect. If you don't mind, we're going to sit. We're just going to have a drink. If you want, we sit at the bar and we're going to have our meeting. And then when you tell us that in an hour that the kitchen has opened up, we're going to have our supper. And then we're going to switch to date mode. So we have an hour first where we talk about what we need to talk and coordinate these stressful weeks. And then I put the notebook aside and we moved to another chair, another table, and we actually had a romantic supper.
Wow.
So, but you have to find a way to make this work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it all starts with the willingness to bring your partner on board with whatever it is you're going through. I think you mentioned something extremely important. We're all independent people.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about that today in a session. We don't want you to stop being independent, but we need to really redefine what independence is, I think.
Yeah.
Because we tend to view independence as I do everything on my own. I don't involve you. I don't need you. And even if I need you, I'm vulnerable enough to let you know. And I think that we view independence that way because we are afraid of losing control or power, and we want to do what we want when we want. I would disagree. I think the opposite is the case. I think that when we are, and then we are 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? We're in, but we're not really in. And that's a recipe for unfulfillment.
Yeah.
I think that when we are fully in, we actually understand the power of the couple, that it gives us so much more freedom. We view independence as freedom. We don't want to lose our independence. Independence means that if I need to do it alone, I will. So last weekend, I drove 7 hours to Toronto, Montreal, Toronto, with the stops 7 hours on my own. But when we do this road together, I usually drive 2 hours only. So unity means that you do things together. But if you have to do them on your own, you can.
Right.
You're not losing, you're not disempowering yourself. So when I was driving on my own, I can do it. But why, if I don't have to, I don't want to. So the beauty of the union is that it gives you freedom, because when we have two people, if we were two, we could take a longer trip. I can drive to Florida, which is 24 hours of drive, but not if I'm alone. So on my own, I am limited of how much I can do. But when we join forces, when we are a union, we have so much more opportunities, so much more freedom. You know, when I did my career change, the only reason I was able to do that financially is because we view our finances as one, and I have my partner. And he said, it's okay because, you know, I provide. So we can take that hit temporarily. If I was a single mom, I wouldn't be able to do that. Mm-hmm. So now I ask myself, when do I have more freedom? When I am in this relationship that we also share our finances and we see ourselves as a unit, or when I think I need to do all on my own?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to reevaluate. We are not asking for dependency. You can stay an independent person, meaning that if you need to do things on your own, you can. But why would I want to do things on my own? I can do so much more when we join forces.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, you just said that so beautifully, you know, that you can create more together than you could on your own. And if you're working towards that shared vision that you created in the, you know, the third pillar.
Yes.
And
exactly.
That, you know, beautifully depicted the, if we're really looking at the me and the you, right? If I'm summarizing, it's like me is all about making sure that I'm responsible for my consciousness and for communicating my truth in a way that is respectful of the other person's reality, you know, in a way where I'm on their team. And that if they trigger me, that it's my responsibility to heal. And of course, intimacy can be revealing how I got triggered and how I healed, you know, without blame. And that leads to further intimacy. And the you is all about learning about the other person and, you know, really treating them in a loving way, you know, because that's what we're committed to doing when we join a life partnership. And then, sorry, I mean, I'm reflecting you, but of course you're
No, I love that. Exactly what you say. It's being their best friend, their cheerleaders. Is like when my husband said, if you want to do a career change, you have your back. That's the you.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And it's so interesting because I kind of look at that as the behaviors, and if we're looking at it from an attachment lens, um, that the me and the you, the balancing those two is kind of like being that safe haven for each other,
Yes, that's a
i.e.,
beautiful word.
really supporting each other emotionally. And then the like, I have your back as you're creating things in the world so we can create more together than we could on our own. That's the secure base
That's right.
of, secure attachment. And so I think those four pillars then, of organizing and visioning together, and then also the unity of what are we really enabling to experience this beauty of love that we couldn't experience on our own, and to create as our legacy, in a conscious way, not just what are our goals, but what are we creating as this team, birthing into the world. What is our legacy that I can experience and achieve more of my purpose with
That's
you
right.
than on my own. And
Right.
that is the beauty of building a life together. So I just
That's
love
right.
that you created this whole system. It does seem all encompassing.
That's right. And then when we have these three pillars, then we arrive to the fourth one, the as, naturally, because the as is that intimacy. It's that union, that sacred union. And it's usually intimacy. We want to have intimacy at the emotional level, physical level, spiritually. So we feel like one. And it's the most delicious feeling, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know. So
Mhm.
is when you actually become lovers, right? And you don't want to become too familiar with each other. You want to have the right habits to protect that intimacy, that distance. So I always tell couples, please close the door of the bathroom when you're there.
Right.
Okay. And how you show up. Sometimes couples look very sloppy at home. And you go, oh, you dress all like this to go out. You never dress like that when you're home. So it's being our best actually in the home. It sends a message, is how we treat our partner, and playing and flirting and intimacy, starts outside the bedroom. Is
Right.
never losing that flirt, playful energy that we had in the beginning. But that naturally gets ignited when you have the three first pillars, right?
Right.
This is when you realize that you get to play the role of lovers, while with the pillar hour, you get to play the role of parents and the role of running this family together and everything that is required, maybe speaking with your children. Now you're looking at each other as two partners, putting things in order for this family. And in the us, you're lovers.
Right.
And in the you're best friends.
Yeah, that's so
You're
cool.
understanding each other. You're listening to each other. So the four pillars allow couples to play the different roles that keep their relationship interesting, alive, and nothing but not boring at all, nothing but interesting. I think it's late at night and my words are getting confused.
That's okay. No, I think I'm understanding, and so I imagine everybody else is too, because they're actually yes, they're deep concepts, but I think you organize them really well.
Well, in the book, we go from these deep concepts to the practical steps. So now then, after we present the framework, we go into, okay, how do I make this? What do I need to do? Right?
Exactly. So yes.
But now I understand what I'm doing, because I know, okay, where it belongs.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe you can give us the cliff notes of practices that people can do in order to build these pillars, just general do's and don'ts, so that we can walk away from this with some practical tools.
So I would give a few do's and don'ts that are all about making the connection stronger. Because when we feel connected, we know how to do all the rest, right? So, for example, of course, you want to know the love language of your partner, right? And you want to have a date night once a week. That belongs to pillar number 2, the you. But because on that date night, you don't want to coordinate the children and stuff. You want to just get to know each other deeper. You want to go curious to say today, even if I've been married for 27 years. When we do a date night, we go, today I'm going to learn something new about you. Or you're going to share something with me that is going to inspire me. So you want to go with that mindset. And if you had a rough week, then the date night is to be each other's best friend. Okay, let's talk. Maybe it's not playful that I'm going to learn something new about you. I'm just going to create space for you to open up. Right? Yeah. And that's okay too. So of course,
I love that description of it, because when you've been married for a long time, of course, it's important to go out on romantic dates still, but it's not like you just met. You have the ability to hold space for each other if you've had a bad day, and that's quality, intimate connection.
That's right. Absolutely. So I know people say, oh, weekly date is overrated. It's not. It's absolutely not. And it's so, so important. It's important to adopt. I think there's one word that goes hand in hand with this model, and that word is rituals. Why do I love rituals? Because rituals say to the other person, this has meaning for me. This is important. And rituals are those things that we do without even thinking. Right? So if you have a movie night once every 2 weeks with your family, that's a ritual. The kids won't make any other plans because on that night we have movie night. If it's for some families, I don't know, Sunday we go to church and then we have lunch together, or Friday night, or whatever it is, then it's a ritual. And rituals give meaning to our lives. They say, this is important. I am investing in this because it's important. It has meaning for me. So I think every couple should choose those daily rituals, weekly rituals, and monthly rituals to nurture their relationship and to run their business, which is their life. Right. So my husband and I, whenever he works from home, some days he works from home, some days he goes to the office, we have our coffee in the living room, and I can tell you exactly how our dog is going to lie on the carpet behind his legs, and we are going to sit there with the dog. We have a beautiful golden, and we're going to talk while having our morning coffee. Okay, so this is a ritual we have. And then we have a weekly date as a ritual where we connect. And then we have a weekly meeting to coordinate our week, right? And then when we need to talk, we have on-demand communication. But a very powerful daily ritual we have is that every morning when we wake up, we hug, we cuddle in bed. And if one of us woke up earlier, meaning he woke up earlier because I'm not a morning person, then when he comes, at some point I wake up too, when he comes into the bedroom, we hug. Even if we're not cuddling in bed, we hug, we're standing up. So the morning hug is non-negotiable. It's something we agree from the beginning. We also agree from the beginning that calling each other stupid, crazy, or any degrading word is non-negotiable.
Yeah, and that's another thing I think it's important in the third pillar, in my opinion, that we create those kind of agreements.
Yes, we have something called the marriage constitution to begin with, where we write down the deal breakers, because every family is different.
Yeah, exactly.
One family might be totally acceptable to say, "Are you crazy?" and not see that as offensive. While another family might say, "In my home, we don't speak that way."
Right.
So we have to get also clear and communicate those deal breakers from the beginning.
And it's also part of like what triggers both people.
That's right.
Pillar number 2.
And it's so easy to avoid, right?
Yeah. Well,
if you know.
It's easy to learn. It's not so easy to avoid if we have communication patterns from childhood, but it is easy to reprogram with practice.
That's right. So we have these daily rituals of connection, like I said, the morning cuddle and the goodbye, the kiss. When we say goodbye, we kiss each other and look at each other in the eyes. And when somebody comes back home, we go and greet them at the door. This is a ritual we have. It's a ritual we also have with our children. We never, I would never be in the kitchen and one of my kids say, bye, I'm leaving. I will stop what I'm doing and go to the door and give them a kiss.
Yeah.
When somebody comes home, we go and greet them, give them a hug, and ask them how was their day. And if it's my husband, we kiss each other hello. And if I'm going to bed earlier than him or vice versa, we're going to say, I'm going to go to bed, while the other one might stay watching TV. We don't just go to bed without announcing it.
Right.
So these might sound like obvious for some people, simple for other people, but they make a huge difference. They make the other person feel seen, cherished, like you take them into consideration.
Yeah. And you want to prioritize them.
You want to prioritize. This is not an hotel where we kind of coexist together. This is home. And a home, the house might be there before you got married, but the home has to be built.
Wow. That's such a beautiful sentiment.
So these rituals are, I think, the key of how to keep the connection healthy and how to deepen it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Rituals are so important. And when I imagine you, if I lived in your house and you stop what you're doing, to say goodbye, it's like that makes me feel so cared for.
And I do that with my children, and I hope they continue this legacy. I know my mom did that, and I hope they also do the same. But I've seen, with my clients that it's not always the case. And it's so simple to do. We think that we need to start correcting, has to be big thing. We don't want to start correcting before we connect. Connection first, correction later. First connection. We want to be in the same team and we have to connect.
Another great soundbite, connection before correction. But it's so true, because people don't want to talk about what needs to change or what needs to happen before they feel connected. At least in a family. I mean, if you're in a business, then you can, but not if you're in a family.
Yeah, I need to feel invested and I need to feel that we are on the same team, because if we try to repair when we're not on the same team, then we're going to see each other as enemies. But when we work towards common problems, when we are a team,
right,
then it's going to look completely different. And by the way, one of the reasons you want to have this common share vision and share goals is because it keeps the relationship connected. And when people don't have common goals, then they have common problems, because there are different ways couples can stay connected, like challenges with their children or challenges with their health, right? Okay, now we put our differences aside because our child needs this or is going through this health scare. So we're going to forget about our problems. So there are different ways couples can stay connected, but we prefer to do it in a better way, right?
Well, yes. I mean, because that's what everybody needs, is to feel like I'm on your team. That's what makes you motivated to work on this common goal together.
That's right.
I mean, inspired. Of course, you might be motivated anyway, but you'll feel inspired if we feel like we're on the same team. I know you also talk about how that it's very important that when you communicate, even if you're giving your partner that feeling that you're on their team, it's important that, like, when I communicate, I'm coming from what you call a soul perspective rather than coming from my ego. So do you want to talk about what that means and what that looks like?
Yeah, I actually, I just wrote today a blog post that is going to go live tomorrow about that. So I think that when we have so many blogs around communication, so many wounds. Some people don't speak at all, don't share their inner world, while others, say everything and not in the best way. So there's a lot to learn about that. And I think when it comes to communication, we definitely want to speak not from the ego, but we also want to become very discerning. I think the right word when it comes to communication is discernment.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because, I was working with this man and he was struggling to know when to speak up and when to stay quiet with his wife. Okay. So he had visited both extremes, holding everything in mind or saying too much. And of course, he found that neither brought him any peace or resolution or connection, right? And I get it. I've been there when I say, okay, I wish I would have spoken sooner or wouldn't have spoken at all, kept my mouth shut. So I think the answer to when it comes to communication is discernment. And I like to share two principles when it comes to communication or how to have that discernment. And discernment means that I know when to speak and when not to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's knowing exactly when is the right time, when not, when to speak, when not to speak. Of course, that comes with maturity and age, but we can also practice that if we apply. The first principle is before we speak, right? We want to ask ourselves, before I say what I have to say, if I had no fear, no guilt, no shame, or anger, if I wasn't triggered, what would I do or what would I say? Okay. And then we want to act from that place. Now, if you are still in your emotions of guilt, shame, anger, blaming, fear, whatever it is, made you feel insecure, made you feel like it's your fault, so now you don't want to feel the guilt, so you blame the other person, whatever it is going on, these emotions, definitely you don't want to communicate from that place because you're going to talk from your ego, as you said. So you first want to pause, don't react, don't communicate right away. Pause and figure out inside you. And then when you have figured out where is this coming from, when have you felt like this for the first time? Because if you got triggered, that was inside you. So when did that get inside me, right?
I like to say that if it's hysterical, it's historical.
Oh, I like that. I love that. That's a beautiful way of putting it. So once you figure all that out and you sort that out, and you are not coming from a place of fear, guilt, shame, or anger, now you can speak. But, okay, speak with kindness and generosity. Choose to express with the purpose of adding value with your words. Always think, are my words going to add value, clarity, understanding, connection? Is this going to build or destroy? If I say it this way, is it going to build or destroy? And we know when our words are going to create connection and understanding, or actually the opposite. Mm-hmm. So I think that we first need to pause, look inside, work on ourselves. And when we are in that neutral place, come to the other one with the purpose of adding value and connection.
That's so powerful. I think it's much easier said than done, of course. But it's
a practice that the more we practice it, the easier it becomes. But the pause is where the magic happens.
Absolutely. That's the I mean, it's not
don't react. Don't go into reactive mode.
But that's the easiest part of it, is the pause.
but from there you can get to the rest, right? If you react right away, and you probably would say something you regret later because you didn't bring any value or connection. You actually probably created the opposite, disconnection, or then it's okay because we're learning, right?
Right. And then
you can come and apologize.
Repairing. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, you can come and apologize. And Yeah, I think the pause is so, so important. The fact
Oh,
that
yeah.
this person lives with me and I see them every day and I wake up next to them and I do their laundry, okay? Or I cook for them or whatever you do for each other, it doesn't give me the right not to show my best side, my best behavior, and come with my ego. They are not my punching bag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really powerful.
And we get really comfortable, and then we see our partners as boring, and we take them for granted, and we get in complacency because we treat them that way. If you are important, if you're precious, I don't take you for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I'm married 25 years, I don't take you for granted. That's what we call giving unconditionally. Giving and being the best that I can be for you, even when I'm sure that our relationship is forever, even when I'm not afraid of losing you,
Yeah.
even when there's no hidden agenda. That's it. We're 25 or whatever, 30 years together. I'm not afraid I'll lose you. And I still want to behave that way with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end goal. I
That's
want to be the
love,
best to you when I have zero doubts about us, when I have zero worry about my relationship, when I have complete certainty in us, and I still want to be the best to you. That's when we reach that power couple and we experience true unconditional love. And it's pure joy because you are acting without fear.
Right.
You're purely giving.
Right. Exactly. Or if you feel fear, you're acting with courage. Because courage is with heart. That's literally what it means. But yeah, no, you just said some beautiful, beautiful things, because the ego is about survival. It's about fear-based consciousness. And, you can't fight fire with fire. So if you blame yourself or you're scared of that, right, then what you resist persists. So it's about pausing so we can slow down and do our inner work. Which that's what I'm saying, can be easier said than done. It can be easy. We could challenge our limiting beliefs and be done with it. Or we could have to do the inner child work and ask ourselves, when was the first time I felt that way, and release the emotional charge and work with a coach or a therapist to do that. But regardless, I love what you're saying, that when you're coming from this soul perspective, we know that because we're looking at, what do I have to give this other person? How is what I'm saying being of value, not just to me, but to them and to the union?
Am I helping them understand me better? Right? Mm-hmm. That's coming from a place of giving. I remember once having an argument with my husband, and he said, I don't understand. And my coping mechanism right away kicked in. I said, never mind. And I could do that. I could say, never mind. I'm good on my own. And then I stopped myself. I paused, not to be reactive. And I said, do you want me to help you understand me?
Yeah.
Right? So it's okay to have our coping mechanisms almost go there, then pause, because now you're in free will, right? That's a choice. Now you're in conscious choice. And then can I come from a place of giving, helping you understand me?
Yeah. That is generous, because it takes, all that, intimacy is into me see. It takes work to clarify, what am I feeling and what am I needing, and how can I communicate that in a way that's honoring you and where you're at and what you're feeling and what you're needing, so that we feel that we're in this together.
That's right.
If we were raised by people that model that for us, then it could be easy. But if we weren't, then it's, skills that we need to learn, and there's no shame in needing to learn. That's why you wrote your book.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, and I want, to hear about your book. The last question I want to ask before that is just, you've had so many wonderful practices. I imagine if I didn't give the interview, I'd want to listen to it a couple of times to really integrate. But I think that if you could just boil it down to one thing that every couple can do today to bring more depth and meaning into their marriage, what would that one thing be?
To have one ritual of communication and one ritual of physical connection. So if they're not communicating on a daily basis, then that. If you're not doing the weekly date, then that. And then physically is to have the morning cuddle and the kiss.
Yeah. No, I agree. And some kind of hug.
Yes.
Ritual, or I've coached other couples where they give each other massages for 5 minutes as a way of connecting. It's like, but our nervous systems need touch.
Yeah, and cells talk to cells. So when you touch each other, and I'm not talking in a sexual way, just touch. Cells talk to cells. So it's very important.
Yeah. Oxytocin creates trust.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, it's and you've and I completely agree. Just with my husband, I've told him that if we don't share about our days every day, that's like the minimum that I need, is like really sharing, what were my key fulfilling and unfulfilling moments today. I want to just feel seen and feel connected in that. Or what did I learn or let go of, or any of those questions. And I want to see him for what were the most important moments of his day. That's the minimum of communication that I need to feel connected. And I think that everyone has different minimums of communication that they need to feel connected. And it's important to talk about that.
Absolutely. I think that when couples have a hard time communicating, or even going on a weekly date that usually people sit next to each other, I always tell them, try to go for a walk. Because when you're walking, you're not looking at each other's eyes. So it might be easier for some people to open up, while you are also moving. So walks, daily walks, or whatever. Weekly walks are also another way.
Amazing. Yes, I think those are great suggestions. Back when, because when we were dating, my husband and I actually lived on the same street. Like I moved on the same street as like a transition. He joked around. He's like, if things keep going well, then I'll have her move in with me, but we're testing it out. It was a joke, of course. But I mean, because we'd only been dating for 6 months. So like, we weren't ready to move in together, but because we didn't live together, we met every morning and took a walk.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful. Like now that's not practical for us because we have different schedules in the morning. But it was the best way to start the day. It's so connecting and, so it like inspired me and uplifted me and carried me through the day. So I completely,
that's beautiful.
We all need to find those ways of connecting that works for us.
That's right. You need to have a conversation to see, okay, how do you feel? Can we connect more? What do we need? Look, when a business is looking at in troubles, they look at the numbers and have real conversations. So, yeah.
No, totally. And so, yeah, I'd love to have you talk about your book because I know that you gave a lot of really important concepts during this interview, and it's just a taste of what you share in the whole book. So, do you want to tell us more about it?
Yes, the book is takes the readers. First of all, it's a very practical book and easy read. It really comes from the perspective of an engineer, so it's very down to earth. So it starts with my story and canceling my wedding a month before. We didn't get into that, but maybe in another episode.
I know there's so many. We've already gone over an hour. There's so many things I could have asked.
Yeah, and then it goes into how to build this legendary marriage, starting with the marriage constitution and then working with each pillar. And each pillar has the right exercises. And then at the end of the book, you have a chapter summary and a chapter where all the exercises are laid out very easily for you to follow. So it's supposed to be a very practical book, but at the same time, very inspiring. There's that balance, of inspiration and belief, because I have so much certainty about marriage. So I'm conveying that. Yes. And the practical way of how to do it, right? Because without actions, it's passive. So we don't want that.
Yeah.
It can be found on Amazon, Becoming a Power Couple, 4 Pillars to Engineer Legendary Marriages. And if anybody wants to start by reading the prologue, we offer the prologue download for free. People can go to becomingaapowercouple.net and download the prologue and start with that if you would like to start with that before you buy the book.
Yes, exactly. I will post the link to the prologue. So that's just all one word with no spaces, becomingaapowercouple.net. And I'll post the link to that below the YouTube video and then also in the show notes if you're listening to this on the podcast platforms. Beautiful. And, because I think that you've done such a wonderful job of describing the gist of the pillars and the main takeaways of, the most important actions to take. And I'm sure that, if people have enjoyed watching this or listening to this, I like to say practice makes progress rather than practice makes perfect, because I don't believe in perfection. But progress in love is blissful.
You said,
and worth it.
Bliss. Very worth it. That's why the challenge is so big, because the reward is incredible, right?
Exactly. And I do believe that love is literally what we're made out of. And that's why when we have these 4 pillars in place, which I love, I have my own way of describing the same concepts, but I think you've done such a good job of laying them out in an easy to understand way. And that when we have this beautiful union of, the left brain and the right brain, the logistics and the feelings and the legacy and the vision and all of it, it's like, that's when you have this experience that you're 2 bodies and 1 heart. And you really have that unity, and that is how I define soul shaking love. So
it's beautiful.
I think that, we're definitely on the same wavelength, and I look forward to this interview getting out there so that people who resonate with what you've said can get your book, because my book is actually for single women. So this is perfect because your book is for married couples.
What's the name of your book?
Oh, so my book, I don't usually like to plug my book on my interviews with other people, but my book is called The Commitment Roadmap, and it's for women. And it basically takes people through all stages of dating, from first creating your vision and values and deal breakers and all of that on your own, and then doing the inner work on your own. That you call pillar number 1. And then, navigating the dating process, how to vet somebody to make sure they have your vision and values, and then how to inspire commitment, which is basically the principles you share in pillars 3 and 4, but, or more like 2 and 3, because you don't experience the union until you actually are married. But in order to inspire commitment, you have to take responsibility for doing your own inner work and seeing fully the other person and creating the shared vision together. So it does apply whether you're single or married, of course, but
that's beautiful.
Thank you. And I feel, like I'm here to plug you, not to plug me, but
no, but look, they complement each other. So that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but for people that are married, I think that your book is more appropriate, because it's all about how to deepen that connection that came naturally in the beginning, like you said.
That's right.
Through the honeymoon phase. And then we feel love, so we believe in it. And then once that wears off, we have to know how to create that feeling. And so I think that what you're talking about, building these pillars, helps to create a feeling that's even better than the honeymoon phase, because it has legs.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
So, yeah. And for everybody who hasn't experienced that yet, I encourage you to check out Gabriela's book, because, it's soul shaking love and a power couple love are just so worth it. So
thank you so much, Valerie.
From our heart to yours. And until next time.
Thank you.